things, we are told, that should be experienced in our lifetime. Big Ben tolling the hour in London, the view from the Statue of Liberty's crown in New York Harbor, a space shot at Cape Canaveral, moonlight on the Taj Mahal. And we who live in the world of sports would add to that list sunrise on Derby Day at Churchill Downs.
Kick to it.
Churchill Downs back to capacity for the Kentucky
100,000 strong.
And they're off. And here comes Sunday Silence. He has the floor. Down the stretch they come. Here's the finish. That's the way it's going to be, Secretary. Sunday Silence, unbridled, winning it by 4 lengths.
Many millions of dollars are spent each year in pursuit of this From the Year trophy. For each horse, it's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. And today, the word super horse is already being used to describe the favorite Fusaichi Pegasus. But he faces a big field whose connections, the owners, the trainers, and the jockeys represent 13 countries on 5 continents. One trainer represents the world of women, Janine Sahadi, trainer of the Irish-bred The Deputy, ridden by Chris McCarron. Trainer Wayne Lucas has started 35 horses in the Derby and won 4 of them. Today he has another multiple entry, the best of which appears to be High Yield. And so one more time we return to Churchill Downs. One more time we grow misty-eyed when they sing that song. One more time we think back to great races and noble horses. One more time we experience a race like none other, the world's greatest horse race, the Kentucky Derby. Well, it's brand new every year, and yet it's the same. The twin spires still crown the grandstand. The ladies once again come in their colorful hats and dresses. And soon the stars of the show will appear, the horses, a new cast every year, but always 3-year-olds, teenagers in human terms. Well, to open the new century, we have a frighteningly big field of 19 headed by a Japanese-owned and Kentucky-bred colt called Fusaichi Pegasus. Already, the experts seem ready to place him with the all-time greats if he just wins today. It's the most international field ever, as we said, with 13 countries represented from 5 continents. And as always, it's the first leg of the Visa Triple Crown, with that elusive $5 million prize waiting for the horse who can win today, then take the Preakness and the Belmont, and no horse has done that in 22 years. Well, there's so much to learn before the race begins, so let's go right away to the man who covers sports from Monday night in the fall to Saturday afternoon in May, my colleague Al Michaels. Al?
Thank you, Jim. International theme indeed. The favorite sounds like some Japanese Greek restaurant. And the question is he a super horse? He comes in as the most hyped horse since Arazi in 1992, but no favorite has won this race in 79. And most of the so-called super horses have been a lot of hype and hope and hot air. Arazi finished well up the track. We'll find out today if this horse, though, who is beautifully bred and cost $4 million as a yearling, is the real deal. We'll also find out if Wayne Lucas can win a 5th Kentucky Derby. He has 3 entrants. And can Bob Baffert, who's kind of been a little quiet this time around in the underdog role, can he win a 3rd Derby in 4 years? A big field of 19. We had 1 horse scratch out on Thursday, and let's take a look right now at the field. And first, some conditions for this race. The purse over $1 million, the distance 1.25 miles, the classic distance. The track is fast. We've had some sprinkles in the last couple of hours, and we expect some more, but right now it is simply cloudy. The sun trying to break through. First, we have a 4-horse entry because of overlapping commonality of ownership. Trippy, Commendable, Impeachment, and High Yield. 2 trained by Todd Pletcher, 2 by Wayne Lucas. You like one, you get all 4 at odds of 5 to 1. Then China Visit and Karul come in from Dubai. The Godolphin entrants are 22 to 1. Globalized was the horse scratched on Thursday. He would have been on the rail. Number 4, a Nice, last year's Breeders' Cup Juvenile winner, 16 to 1. Aptitude is a closer, 11 to 1. Hal's Hope, a great human interest story. We'll tell you about that later at 19 to 1. Then there's Captain Steve. That's the Baffert trained horse at 7 to 1. War Chant with Hall of Famer Jerry Bailey in the irons at 9-1. More Than Ready's had a good career thus far, 10-1, perhaps a bit of an overlay. The Deputy is 4-1, trained by Janine Sahadi. The second choice, Graham Hall, the Arkansas Derby winner at 40-1. The favorite, Fusaichi Pegasus, and he's an overlay right now. He was 9-5 in the morning line, 3-1 on the board. Exchange rate at 50-1. Then Wheelaway, Deputy Warlock, and Ronton form the field like one. You get all three at 19-1. We have folks all over the place, so let's begin right now on the backstretch and check in with Charles C. Canty.
Fusaichi Pegasus' quirky behavior could be his biggest adversary this afternoon. He's a rambunctious fellow, and he sometimes can just be downright willful. So we'll be watching to see whether this huge crowd distracts him from acting up or whether it just makes matters worse. In the meantime, we'll check in with Hank Goldberg.
Can the B horse do it again? The trainer's other horse ignored by the bettors. Like Charismatic last year when Wayne Lucas also had Cat Thief. Neil Drysdale has two this afternoon, Fusaichi Pegasus, who everybody's talking about, and War Chant. Let's go to Dave Johnson.
There are a lot of families tied to this year's big race, both equine and human. How about Unbridled? 10 years ago, he won the big race, and he has two sons in today's race, Anise and Wheelaway. And Wheelaway is trained by John Kimmel, who will try and win it for his father, Caesar, who owns the horse. Let's go to Leslie Visser.
Dave, the spotlight has been on women this week. Jockey Julie Crone was elected to the Hall of Fame, and trainer Janine Sahadi is trying to become the first woman ever to win the Blanket of Roses. She says she's not trying to make a feminist statement, she's just trying to win the race. But as a former journalism major from USC, she appreciates a good storyline to see if luck be a lady.
I've been around horses my whole life. My dad's been racing since the early 60s. I started training in 1993. Was working in publicity and marketing at Hollywood Park, and decided if everybody else can do it, maybe so can I. I've never ever thought about being in the Derby because you don't think about things that you don't think are within your reach. I always called it the D word. Everybody said, "Do you have Derby fever?" And I said, "No, it's not even fever. I call it malaria. It's like full dementia." I didn't start training with some political agenda. I'm just, training a great horse. If I can, steer a young girl in this direction, I say go for it. It's a great job.
Best finish thus far by a woman trainer, Shelley Riley, in 1992. She trained Casual Eyes, finished second to Lily T. Well, we have horses, we have roses, and we have, of course, mint juleps at the Kentucky Derby. Lots of sugar, lots of bourbon, lots of mint. I'm having one after the race with an Alka-Seltzer back. And will be partly cloudy afternoon with intermittent showers. The Goodyear Blimp looking down upon a crowd of more than, they're telling us now, 153,000 people here in Louisville. And we go to the first turn again, and Jim McKay. Jim.
All right, Al. Well, trainer Neil Drysdale, born in Britain, resident in California, winner of 5 Breeders' Cup races, among other things, was elected to horse racing's Hall of Fame just last week. But the crowning jewel of any trainer's career has escaped him. Not only has he never won the Kentucky Derby, he's never had a horse run in it. But now comes a colt named Fusaichi Pegasus. Pegasus, you remember, the winged horse so glorious in battle that Zeus sent him to the heavens to live forever as a constellation in the night sky. Some reputation for a mere mortal horse to live up to. And yet, the present-day Pegasus is regally bred by the late great Mr. Prospector and has romped in the same fields as 2 Derby winners. Breeder Arthur Hancock, a superstitious man who dreams, then makes the dreams come true, spotted him on the day he was born.
I remember he, as soon as he hit the ground, he started trying to stand up, and I named him right there on the spot. I said, he's a little Superman. He's unbelievable. And I told people at the sale, that I thought he was the best horse we'd ever raised. And I said, if he can't run, then I'll never make another prediction as long as I live.
A Japanese businessman named Fusao Sekaguchi paid $4 million for him at the famous Keeneland sale, the biggest price in 15 years. The colt's first name, Fusaichi, combines the owner's name and the suffix ichi, meaning the first. And it was the fortunate fate of Neil Drysdale to become the colt's trainer. He had obvious talent, this horse, but also a mind of his own and a fun-loving spirit.
He's a real character. He's just ebullient. He's full of life and wants to enjoy himself, and he'll buck and do all sorts of things.
Well, he got attention here very quickly last week when he threw his exercise rider one morning. Was that just for fun, or might the great Derby Day crowd panic the fractious colt?
His feeling good has nothing to do with the way he's preparing for the race. This is just part of his character. In fact, it would be worrisome if he suddenly stopped playing around.
Well, while playing around between races, the colt, after only one race as a 2-year-old, has been undefeated this season, and in 4 victories become the Derby favorite. But Trader Drysdale knows what happens to favorites in the Derby.
Being the favorite, historically, the last 20-odd years, has not been a good situation in this race because none of them were won. So I think you have to take the favoritism with a bit of a pinch of salt.
So Fusaichi Pegasus has great talent, a legend, the opinion of the experts, and the whole nation of Japan behind him. But there is a subplot. His stablemate, Warchan, will also be in the field, wearing blinkers for the first time and carrying on his back none other than Jerry Bailey, winner of 2 derbies. Might the humble stablemate outrun the madcap superstar? Well, and there is the owner, Mr. Sakaguchi, with his daughter-in-law, Yukari. He says that if a horse's vibes don't match his vibes, he doesn't buy the horse. Don't ask me what the Japanese word for vibes is. Over to Charlesy now.
Under normal circumstances, this is a time of nervous apprehension as the clock counts down to Derby post time, but for Kent Sormo, maybe a little more anxiety than normal because Fusaichi Pegasus, how do you think he'll react to this crowd?
Well, there's been a lot of press, I would say, media about he's a time bomb ready to explode. It's exactly the contrary, Charlesy. He doesn't have a care in the world, and most of the time as his antics were in Aqueduct for the Wood Memorial, was simply his desire to stand and take a look around.
Kent, I know this has been the most difficult week of your life for you and your wife, Sonia, when you were informed that your son Jacob was born deaf. And I just know that there are a great many people out there suffering the same heartbreak. What would you say to them?
Well, one thing's for sure, it has certainly brought my wife and I and the 3 of us who can hear, my 7-year-old son Josh, much closer together. One of the things that happened with Josh was, Sonia was upset. She was devastated upon the news, and Josh was alongside of her, and she was upset, and he looked over and he said, "Mom, don't worry, Jake and I, we'll be able to have secrets that no one else will know." So, he was been special with it. But I think most of all, growing up where I am in the racing industry, it's such a hustle and bustle. I mean, everybody works so hard. And we just kind of stop and take a look around because now all he has is his eyes. He can't hear all the hustle and bustle that's going around. So just stop, take a look around and know what's around you.
And he feels the love you all have for him. You're all in our hearts and prayers. We'll be thinking about you.
Appreciate that.
Good luck this afternoon, Kent. And we'll go back to Hank Goldberg.
Spectacular bid in 1979. That's where you have to go to find a favorite who justified the public's confidence in a Kentucky Derby. Actually, most of the betting choices were lukewarm, ranging from 2-1 to 9-2. In 1985, Chief's Crown went off at 6-5. Spendabuck ran off, had a 4-5 length lead early, and as you can see, he maintained it the entire way. Then there was Arazi, odds-on with unparalleled attention off his Breeders' Cup win, but he had surgery and only one prep in France leading up to the Derby, and he came up short as Louis T scored at 16-1. Remember Holy Bull? He was squeezed at the start and never recovered. Gopher Gin got the roses. Will the new millennium lift the curse of chalk from Fusaichi Pegasus? Well, his backers also have to worry about just getting him to the starting gate. Let's go to Jim.
Okay, Hank, so perhaps the place to look for the winner is not at the top of the odds board, but closer to the bottom. Such was the case in 1995. This Kentucky Derby moment is presented by Jaguar Cars, the art of performance.
They're off in a Kentucky Derby. On the outside, Thunder Bolt with the white blinkers, and Gary Stevens aboard has something to say about this Derby as they turn for home. A little more than a quarter of a mile to go. And down the stretch they come in the Derby. And here's
so he has dropped. The Deputy is the second choice. Then the 4-horse entry is the third choice. And Captain Steve right now being held at odds of 7-1. But all eyes are on Fusaichi Pegasus at odds of 5-2. The morning line, he was 9-5, so still a bit of an overlay. Everybody looking at him, but keep in mind now some very serious contenders in this race. Several horses who would be no surprise were they to wind up in the winner's circle. Let's take a closer look at some of them right now.
Two-time Derby-winning trainer Bob Baffert hopes Captain Steve can send him back to the winner's circle. As a 2-year-old, Captain Steve won 4 of 8 starts, including the Hollywood Futurity. The captain is winless at age 3, but this is a familiar road for trainer Baffert.
I think it's the same scenario as coming in here was real quiet. He won the Hollywood Futurity, and then he never won again until he won the Kentucky Derby. So hopefully that angle worked for us again, and that's what I'm counting on.
With 12 starts, High Yield is the most experienced horse in the race. Trainer Wayne Lucas will saddle a proven commodity who has already earned more than $1 million and comes off a stirring win in the Bluegrass Stakes, holding off More Than Ready, another colt with a lot of experience and trained by a Lucas protege, Todd Fletcher. In 1999, this colt was a monster. His 10-length win at the Sanford Stakes at Saratoga, one of 5 victories. Bred in Ireland, the Deputy raced in England as a 2-year-old, then was shipped to Santa Anita and won his first race at age 3 on turf. Trained by Janine Sahadi, the Deputy appears capable of adjusting to any kind of pace, an important factor in a big field.
I think the Deputy is a very versatile horse, and I think versatility is a very good thing when you're talking about this kind of race.
In his last prep, the Santa Anita Derby, the Deputy knocked off 3 other horses who will be running today.
Dave Johnson, so many things to think about. One thing, though, that you have to take into consideration, none of these horses has been 1.25 miles. And outside of those who go on to the Belmont, none of these horses figure to go 1.25 miles ever again.
And now when you handicap a race, usually you look back to see their best performances. Not so with the Derby. You have to anticipate who's going to run their best race today. And for that reason, I think horses like Wheel Away and More Than Ready, Captain Steve, and High Yield still have their best shot yet to fire.
If Captain Steve runs his best race today, Bob Baffert will wind up in the winner's circle again, 3rd time in 4 years, as we go to Leslie Visser.
Al, Captain Steve is not the favorite on this first Saturday in May, but he is a story for all time. The horse was named after Captain Steve Thompson of the Louisville Police Department, who came to the aid of owner Mike Pegram in 1997 when Pegram was arrested and handcuffed for carrying a concealed weapon. It had been an unopened gift. Well, now Captain Steve has taken the pressure off Bob Baffert, who a few weeks ago tossed one of his famous wisecracks at Janine Sahadi prior to the Santa Anita Derby, but Sahadi was not amused.
By the way, who's training the Deputy, you or Janine? I want
We're not going to say. We're not going to say.
Thank God my horse has a lot of class, because there's a lot of people that don't.
That hurt.
I reacted to something that was said to me. Whether or not it was in jest or not, I'm not interested in knowing. I don't behave like that, and, you know, it's over and done with.
The remarks got taken out of context and was completely overblown. And there's water in the bridge, and now we're just focusing on getting Captain Steve to the wires first in the Kentucky Derby.
Bob says his new approach is going to be called zipit.com, and he would like to get back to just being the man who so recently dominated the Derby. Al?
Thank you, Leslie. Another man who has dominated the Derby is Wayne Lucas, and there is his primary entrant. He has 3, 1X High Yield, part of the 4-horse entry, right now at odds of 5-1. Fusaichi Pegasus still the favorite at 5-2. Back after this match. And there is a live look at Fusaichi Pegasus. This is called the walkover. He starts in the barn. They bring him out onto the track. And right now he is in the first turn, walking toward the paddock to be saddled there. And then there'll be the call for riders up and out to the post parade and the race itself. The Hewlett-Packard Insight into Technology takes us into the jockey
Trip to the Derby paddock for 20 years. Wayne, a little bit about High Yield. What kind of a trip would be to your advantage from that outside post?
I think we're going to have an energy-saving trip. I would like to see us place well, but not necessarily on the lead at the first turn. But we're going to have to conserve some energy because we're giving up ground.
Of course, you win this a lot, but not with the horse we think. Good luck to you, Wayne. And Al, as he said, he didn't used to like that outside post, but now having won it there a couple of times, he's all for it.
Wayne has broken from just about every post, 38 horses in 20 years. And meanwhile, Todd Pletcher, one of his proteges, half Wayne's age, not only comes to the Derby for the first time, but saddles 4 horses. He has 4 of the 19 in the field today. Todd Pletcher, one of the up-and-comers. Here's a closer look.
My dad trained horses for 25 years in the Midwest, so like a lot of kids growing up on the racetrack, I traveled around a bit. So I remember at an early age, my mom was asking me, what do you think you want to do when you grow up? And I told her, you know, I thought I wanted to train horses, and she told me she thought that was a great idea. He's got so many strengths. He's very organized, very meticulous, and doesn't let anything go unturned. And in some ways, I think it's an advantage that there's not all the pressure on one horse, and everything's got to happen for that one horse. We get the luxury of having 4 chances. The Derby is just one of those special moments that I guess it doesn't matter if you've been here 5 times or you've never been here. I wouldn't imagine going over there and not getting some chills down my spine when those horses go on the track and the crowd roars.
Now a live look at the jockey's room. It's Corey Nakatani. He'll be riding number 4, Anise. Corey, one of the very best in the West. Craig Perret has won this race before aboard Unbridled in 1990. Kent DeSormo, this is his only mount of the day and the only race that really matters on Derby Day as we go back to Jim McKay.
32 years ago, at age 56, Harold Rose sold his successful company and retired from business, but not from life. He retired to a new ambition to train racehorses, and he did, claiming horses for the most part. But today, we learn once and for all that as the race is not always to the swift or the battle to the strong, the Derby is not always to the young. Because today, Harold Rose at 88 has a talented horse in the big race named for himself, Hal's Hope. To be sure, the Derby is most often for the young, like 18-year-old Steve Cawthon in 1978. But we've also seen Charlie Whittingham, the oldest Derby trainer, and his jockey Bill Shoemaker, the oldest rider. And 3 years later, Charlie breaking his own record at age 76. 7 years ago, Paul Mellon finally achieved his Derby dream late in life. And we can never forget Mrs. Genter, winning at 92 in one of the Derby's most emotional moments. And now, Hal's Hope. He runs for his owner, trainer, and for a vast number of his family and friends. So in a very real sense, this horse runs for the Roses every time out. The Rose family, that is. And now there are just 24 minutes to post time. There is the favorite. The Japanese-owned favorite in the race, Fusaichi Pegasus. We'll be back. Who do you think will win the Derby?
Churchill Downs, here comes Janine Sahadi, who has really made her mark, and she has a great horse, the Deputy, half owned by Team Valor, headed by Barry Irwin, the other half owned by the Hollywood producer Gary Barber. Right now, the second choice in the race at odds of 9-2. Now, here are the Sealy Posturepedic post positions from the rail out, starting with number 1, Anise breaks from the inside. We've highlighted Trippy because he's a speed horse coming out of 5, and then Captain Steve out of number 7. He had the first choice the other day in the post draw, picked number 8, but because of the scratch of Globalized, they moved everybody else inside 1. We've highlighted here War Chant number 8, More Than Ready number 9, and the Deputy number 10, 3 top contenders breaking side by side by side. Then you go to the auxiliary gate, and 3 of the last 5 winners have come from that gate. Fusaichi Pegasus from 15 and High Yield coming out of 17. He should be able to stay out of early trouble. Joined again now by Dave and by Hank. And guys, let's take a little closer look, some of the strengths and some of the weaknesses of some of these horses. And we'll start, Hank, with Trippy, a horse we know will go to the front early.
And that could be a negative because there's a lot of other speed in this race. He's also fighting 117 years since a horse who was unraced at 2 has won a Kentucky Derby, although he's 4 for 4.
Dave, China Visit doesn't visit us from China. Instead, he comes from Dubai, and this is a real mystery horse.
The biggest question mark in the field, only 2 races in Dubai. But Al, one of the best jockeys in the world, Frankie Dettori, gave up several good mounts in London this weekend to be here.
Dave, Anise won the Breeders' Cup Juvenile last November at odds of 30-1. He just hasn't run back to that form since.
But he's got excellent pedigree for the 1.25 miles, and his racing style, coming from a bit off the pace, should fit today, and he can save valuable ground around that first turn.
Hank, another horse who will come off the pace, well off the pace, is Aptitude, the Bobby Frankel horse.
Yeah, he's bred to go long, maybe a Belmont horse, but Bobby knows what he's doing. He's a Hall of Famer. He has only one career win, and that was his maiden.
Hank, we know the old cliche, horses for courses. If there is a horse for this course, how about Captain Steve's performance here last November?
Won a big stakes here in the Kentucky Jockey Club. The only question about him is that he's worked well here, but can he make the distance?
Dave, there is War Chant, a classy horse, but a horse who's had only 4 starts. He does get Jerry Bailey.
He's a month of May foal, so that's literally makes him the youngest horse in the race. Trainer Drysdale took it easy on him. Consequently, he's only had 4 starts, but 3 wins.
Let's take a look at More Than Ready, who was engaged in a terrific stretch duel, losing out at the end to High Yield in the Bluegrass.
And Al, if you want a horse who's won in front of 140,000 fans already, here he is, because More Than Ready won on Derby Day, a 2-year-old stakes on the undercard last Derby Day.
Hank, in 1941, Whirl Away won the Kentucky Derby and the Triple Crown. Today we have Wheel Away.
Well, he can close. He did so against the speed bias at Keeneland in the Bluegrass. He hasn't won a graded stake, so that could be going against him.
Hank, I'm going to ask you to pick the winner, but first you're going to tell me how that winner is going to get there.
Well, a lot of speed, but speed's been doing well today. Hal's Hope, Trippy, and Graham Hall are going to be out there early, and High Yield, coming from number 17, is going to be right in behind, trying to get position. Right behind them it'll be the deputy, Captain Steve, War Chant, and probably More Than Ready. And then as they go around to the backstretch, the front runners are going to start to get a little tired, because I think they're going to run about a 46. And that will set up for closers if they can make it. But you've got the deputy coming on the inside, Captain Steve on the outside, War Chant right there. You don't see Fusaichi Pegasus yesterday, but he's menacing. At the top of the lane, War Chant and deputy slugging it out. Captain Steve starts to drift. Here comes Fusaichi Pegasus. Aptitude is going to make a big run up the rail, and as they hit the finish line, Fusaichi Pegasus takes over. The deputy is chasing but can't keep up, and it looks like Aptitude is in there for third with War Chant in a photo.
But Dave Johnson, our man Hank, doesn't go for the chalk very often, but he did today. What are you doing?
Well, he says Fusaichi, I say Fusici. I think the Colt's liable to call the whole thing off. That's why I'm saying I'm taking High Yield for the experience. How about you, Al?
I just can't pass an 11-to-1 opportunity. I think More Than Ready is More Than Ready, and he wins today. What do you think, Charlesy?
Well, Fusaichi Pegasus has been an absolute gentleman so far. A real gentleman. He might be the real deal. I'm just going to hang with him, even though he has gotten pretty warm walking over here. He has not put a foot wrong so far. Leslie?
Charlesley, they can shoot the sheriff, but they will not shoot the deputy down. This is a tough, experienced colt in the hands of a Hall of Fame jockey. Janine Sahadi said this horse gives her peace of mind. I think he'll give her a piece of history. Jim, who do you like?
Well, I can't go for the favorite at those odds in this big field, so I'll take a long shot, Aptitude. However, my wife, Margaret, has picked many more winners at the Derby than I have, so I suggest you go along with her. And Margaret says, the deputy. When we come back, the all-time number one song, number one song in the sports hit parade in a minute, the playing of My Old Kentucky Home.
Team jockeys mount their colts and get ready for that walk underneath the main stands and out into the sunshine in front of 153,000 people. Hold to the post. Ready for that right now. Here comes Steve Butelman. The moment at hand.
Ladies and gentlemen, please rise for the playing of My Old Kentucky Home, performed by the University of Louisville Band. The band is directed by Dr. Fred Speck.
The ultimate rite of spring in Kentucky, my old Kentucky home. Now the post parade. Trippy, number one of the 4 horses in an entry. They are combined because of a commonality of dual ownership. Commendable 1A, trained by D. Wayne Lucas. Robert and Beverly Lewis have won 2 Kentucky Derbies in the 90s. Impeachment comes here from Arkansas. Finished 3rd in the Arkansas Derby. Craig Perret, who won this race in 1990 aboard Unbridled, is in the saddle. And the best of these 4, the best of this quartet, is High Yield, who won the Bluegrass. Can he give Wayne Lucas a 5th trip to the winner's circle? Pat Day aboard. Then the entry from Dubai, China Visit, from the Godolphin stable, comes in, along with Frankie Dettori in the irons. And his entry made, 2B, is Carul, ridden by Marlon St. Julian, with 4 lifetime starts and 1 win. Number 3, Globalized, was scratched on Thursday. Number 4 is Anise. Corey Nakatani comes in to try to win his first Derby. Alex Hassinger is the conditioner. He was 4th in the Santa Anita Derby. Number 5 is Aptitude, who will have to come from behind. Alex Solis gets the mount. Brice Blanc had been his rider until now. Solis up for the first time. Bobby Frankel is the trainer. Hal's Hope, the great human interest story. Jim touched upon it. The 88-year-old Harold Rose bred him, owns him, trains him. Roger Velez, longtime jockey, gets his first Derby mount. Number 7 is Captain Steve. Can Bob Baffert win his 3rd? He's the trainer. Mike Pegram owns him. Robbie Alvarado in the irons. Number 8 is War Chant. He has the services of Jerry Bailey. Bailey won this race with Chief Hero in 93, Grindstone in 96. He is one of the 2 Neil Drysdale trained horses. Number 9 is More Than Ready. John Velasquez, whose agent is Angel Cordero, the great ex-jockey. He's in the irons. He's one of the 4 Fletcher horses. He finished 2nd to High Yield in the Bluegrass. Number 10 is The Deputy, the second choice right now at 9-2. Chris McCarron has won this race twice. Ali Sheba in 87. Go for Gin in 94. Trained, of course, by Janine Sahadi. Graham Hall with Shane Sellers in the irons is number 11 at 45-1. Very little respect for a horse that just won the Arkansas Derby. Number 12 is the favorite at 5-2, Fusaichi Pegasus, trained by Neil Drysdale, who was voted into the Hall of Fame this week, his first Derby start. Number 13 is Exchange Rate. This one of the 3 Lucas horses. He runs uncoupled, and not often do you get 50-1 on Wayne Lucas, but here's your chance. Then 3 horses in the field. If you like any one of these 3, you get all 3. Wheel Away. Number 14, Richard Migliori, hasn't been here since 1987. He gets them out. Deputy Warlock, trained by Ken McPeak, comes off a 4th place finish in the Bluegrass. And rounding out the field is number 16, Ronton. Brice Blanc gets the call. Vladimir Serin is the trainer. So the field of 19 warming up prior to the start of the Kentucky Derby. 6 minutes to the 126th Classic. Fusaichi Pegasus is 2-1. So he has dropped consistently since we came on the air when he was 3-1. Jerry Bailey has been to the winner's circle 2 times in his illustrious career, riding War Chant. We have Jerry Mike. How's your horse warming up, Jerry, and what would be an ideal trip for you?
He's warming up great. If I could be 3rd flight, 6 or 7 lengths off the lead, maybe tracking the Deputy or more than ready, I'd be happy.
Is there a track bias today? Is it better inside or outside?
I think it's pretty even, but I don't think you want to be too far back.
And the track is very fast. Jerry, good luck to you.
Thank you.
Another man who's won it twice is Chris McCarron. Chris aboard the Deputy. How is your horse warming up, Chris?
Terrific, Al. He feels great.
Chris, have you sneaked a peek over at Fusaichi Pegasus?
I have, yeah, and he's behaving very well. I haven't seen him do anything wrong yet.
What's an ideal trip for you, Chris?
I think probably a stocking situation. That would be ideal for me.
All right, Chris McCarron has been to the winner's circle twice. Chris, good luck to you as we go to Leslie Visser.
Al, in 125 years, no woman trainer has stood in the winner's circle. Janine Sahadi is knocking on heaven's door. Janine, can you sum up the emotion of this moment right now?
Well, I'm anxious. I feel nervous. I feel happy. I feel proud. I feel a ton of things, you know, but more than anything, I just want it to be over with. Win, lose, or draw, I love my horse, and I'm just happy to be here, and I know he deserves to be here. So
on paper, he's got no weaknesses. Good luck to you, Janine. Back to you, Al.
Thank you, Leslie. Let's take a look at the odds right now. In order of favoritism, Fusaichi Pegasus 2-1. The Deputy is 9-2. The 4-horse entry with High Yield, the most quality of that quartet, 6-1, who has the most quality. Captain Steve is 8-1. War Chant at 9. More Than Ready and Aptitude at odds of 11-1. The Breeders' Cup Juvenile winner, Anise at 17. Then Wheel Away, Deputy Warlock, and Ronton the field at 20. House Hope 22. The Dubai entry is 23. Graham Hall at 45. An Exchange Rate, one of the Lucas horses, at odds of 50-1. But Fusaichi Pegasus, who was 9-5 on the morning line, and then as high as 6-1 after the early betting here yesterday, on the air at 3-1. Now he'll go off at 2-1. The 19 horses loading into the starting gate. And for the call of the Kentucky Derby, Dave Johnson.
Secretariat set the stakes and track record for the 1.25 miles here in the Derby of 1973. And there's the Deputy in line. This is a well-behaved group of 3-year-olds for young horses as they move into line. There is Graham Hall, winner of the Arkansas Derby. Impeachment with the veteran Craig Perrette riding for the newcomer Todd Pletcher. Number 1C in the wagering. 1A, 1C, and 1X all coupled. There's Todd Pletcher. 4 of them in his first trip to the Roses. The favorite, Fusaichi Pegasus, now at 2-1. And he's in comfortably. Loading the outside gate, and 7, 8, and 9 in post position order. Here comes Captain Steve, Robbie Alvarado. There's Kent DeSormo in the yellow cap with the favorite. That day, riding for D. Wayne Lucas, High Yield. The Lewises, Bob and Beverly Lewis, and Carroll, part of the entry from Saeed bin Suur. The last horse, Ronton, with Reese Blanc moving into line. All set. And they're off in the Kentucky Derby. Fusaichi Pegasus got away cleanly and moved to the left right at the start. Right away, though, Trippy takes the early lead, and Hal's Hope on the inside challenges early. Wheel Away is third on the inside. Graham Hall fourth. More Than Ready is fifth. Exchange Rate on the outside is in sixth position. Then comes Captain Steve seventh. On the outside, High Yield is eighth and caught wide. The Deputy is between horses and Commendable. As they round the clubhouse turn, Roger Velez takes Hal's Hope to the front. 3 parts of a length. Trippy on the outside is in second. Graham Hall in the blue and yellow colors moves third on the outside. More Than Ready at the rail is fourth. Then comes High Yield, fifth on the outside. Captain Steve, tucked in at the rail, is sixth at this point. Exchange Rate is seventh. Wheel Away is eighth. Commendable is ninth. After that, it's War Chant racing in 10th position. Trying to Visit is 11th. The Deputy now on the outside, and Fusaichi Pegasus finds a little racing room on the inside. It has a lot of ground to make up, about 8 lengths from the front. Then comes Aptitude, Anise, Carroll, and finally the final 3 horses, Deputy Warlock, Impeachment, and Ronton is 19th and last. They're on the far turn, and Hal's Hope on the inside in the pink colors continues to show the way. Has it by ahead. Hal's Hope with Roger Velez. And on the outside, Trippy coming on again. In the middle of the track, here comes Captain Steve, and he's flying. And Wheel Away swings to the middle of the racetrack. Fusaichi Pegasus is fifth at this point. More Than Ready at the rail. Down the stretch they come in the Derby. Wheel Away takes command by a head. More Than Ready on the inside. But here comes Fusaichi Pegasus with huge strides, gobbling up ground and getting the lead. Fusaichi Pegasus with Kent DeSormo in front. Aptitude up for the place spot. Here's the finish. Fusaichi Pegasus wins it by a length and a half. Aptitude got the place spot, and I believe it was Impeachment up to be third. So the 20-year jinx has been cracked. And Fusaichi Pegasus
wins it. There he is right there. The winner of the Wood, a tremendous victory there and improving on that today. The first favorite since 1979 to win the Roses. A beautifully judged ride by Kent DeSormo as he weaved his way between horses, and what a punch this horse has. 201.12, Al. Fusaichi Pegasus gets the job done.
Dave, we saw that punch you talked about in the Wood. He made two very powerful moves, one to get himself into position as they headed into the far turn, and then DeSormo let him go in the stretch at Aqueduct in the middle of April. And today, down the stretch, he finds some racing room. DeSormo takes him to the wire, and now the question is he the super horse a lot of people think he is? We will find out in the ensuing weeks. Meanwhile, Aptitude, with a late charge, came in second, the Bobby Frankel horse. But Fusaichi Pegasus, who goes off at odds of 2-1, wins it. And there is Aptitude, who winds up in second position with Alex Solis, who winds up second once again in the Kentucky Derby. Let's go to Leslie.
Al, it is a very jubilant group here. Yukari, the daughter-in-law of Fusayo, can you ask him what this means to win? You've won the Japan Derby. Excuse me? Can you ask him what this means, what the emotion is right now?
Wow, it's like, wow, you know, so exciting. I'm like, my heart is beating and my heart is out of my mouth.
Like $4 million is a pretty good deal right now?
But more than that.
Well, congratulations to all of you. Back to you, Al.
Okay, Leslie, Kent DeSormo will go to the winner's circle again. He was there with Real Quiet in 1998, riding that horse for Bob Baffert and for Bob and Beverly Lewis. And Kent, I assume you can hear me right now. It's Al Michaels upstairs.
Good boy. Yes, I can. Hi, Al.
Congratulations, Kent. Just briefly tell us what the trip was like.
I had a marvelous trip, Al. The deepest concern I had was this guy left the gate like, let him walk normal. He left the gate like a pony, and, you know, I might have got myself far back, but he just reeled him in very, very easy. The only question was turning for home, whether he could do what he did going a mile. And when I encouraged him to improve his stride, he just took off like a rocket. And I knew at that point this race was over.
How concerned were you when he did fall that far back in a 19-horse field? How worried were you?
Well, I would be worried if I would have been pushing, but I wasn't pushing on him. I had, you know, the magic word in this game is comfortable early. And he was so comfortable, I wasn't out of touch. And I just tried to bide my time and think not to worry. And things worked out, Al. He's a marvelous horse. And congratulations to the owners and Mr. Drysdale, who stepped up and bought a pretty colt. And this pretty boy can run.
Yes, he can. All right, Ken. Jim McKay will be talking to you very shortly in the winner's circle. Congratulations.
Good boy.
Okay, Hank Goldberg has joined me right now. Hank, let's pick it up on the far turn.
Well, you have Hal's Hope on the lead at this point, and you have Fusaichi Pegasus and the deputy 8 lengths back. They ran a half mile in 46, Al, and so there was plenty of speed to chase here. And what happens is Fusaichi Pegasus gets the trip, and the deputy simply did not fire. And you'll watch Fusaichi Pegasus with the same kind of explosion down the stretch that he showed in the Wood. And I certainly believe that this horse had to convince everybody today. Impeachment ran a heck of a race to run third, and Aptitude was second. Our horse was bred to run the distance. I thought Aptitude ran a terrific race.
He did. There's no question about that. As we look at it, he was coming on at the end as the winner takes it by a length, maybe a length and a quarter. Here's the overhead shot from the blip.
And you can see the Sormo as he just has this horse going. Just beautiful stride, a beautiful animal. The Sormo fits him perfectly. There's Aptitude coming up with Impeachment on the inside. Impeachment's not going to catch these two. And look at how easily Fusaichi Pegasus is going at this point. He was just fantastic behavior-wise and running-wise.
And how often do you see a Derby winner hand-ridden home here, Dave?
And one of the most eye-appealing charges from the back of the pack in a 19-horse field. A sensational effort. Absolutely sensational.
Fusaichi Pegasus. One race as a 2-year-old, and now as a 3-year-old on this first Saturday in May to the winner's circle with a 126 Kentucky Derby. 2:01 and 1. And only 3 horses in the history of the Kentucky Derby have ever run this race faster. Here's Charleston.
I'm with Alex Solis, who has just lost his 10th Kentucky Derby, still looking for that first victory, but a great closing effort aboard Baptitude. He's being consoled by his son, Austin, who's very disappointed his daddy got beat. You had a good ride, though.
Yes, I sure did. I couldn't ask for a better trip. He broke cleanly, and going to the first turn, the main thing was not to get him in trouble, and we had a fantastic trip. Unfortunately, the horse that won, he was super today.
You had the bad fortune to run into Fusaichi. We're going to change his name, Pegasus. But a good competitive effort from this colt, and he looks like he'd be still competitive at the Preakness in 2 weeks.
Yeah, I think he probably is going to go to the Belmont, and I think he's going to be extra tough there.
All right, Alex, thank you very much. That's a rematch to look forward to. We'll go back to Al.
Well, it was bound to happen. There were no favorites in the winner's circle in the 80s, none in the 90s, and now in the 2000s we begin where we left off in 1979 when Spectacular Bid won the Kentucky Derby. This horse began the day when we came on the air. He was 3-1. Then he dropped to 5-2, and then shortly before post time he went to 2-1. The result is not official as yet, but he will pay at minimum $6 for winning the Kentucky Derby. Let's take a look at the connections, the contingent, the connections of Fusaichi Pegasus as they watch their horse come home. There's no language barrier there. That's a universal language. And here is Janine Sahadi, the trainer of the deputy.
Being consoled by her husband, Ben.
The deputy going off as the second choice at odds of 9-2, but not there at the end.
You know, now there's going to be a lot of speculation about the Preakness because it's just 2 weeks rest. You know, he had 3 weeks since the win.
Secretariat with a record, the only horse to run this race in under 2 minutes. Then Northern Dancer with the second fastest. Spend a Buck decidedly. And Fusaichi Pegasus puts himself in position on a graphic featuring some pretty good horses, Hank.
I just wonder, Dave, for 19 horses, have you seen a cleaner run race?
It's very clean, and I hardly ever remember a winner winning under wraps like that.
So Neil Drysdale, a very patient trainer, he's done a wonderful job. His barn is out west, and he's well known, of course, at Santa Anita and Hollywood Park. He's had a lot of stakes winners throughout his great career, but he, like Charlie Whittingham, knew when he came to the Kentucky Derby, after Charlie had been here as a very young trainer, he waited until he had a horse he knew could win. And Neil did, and Neil has won. The results are now official with Fusaichi Pegasus. The result is official, but we're waiting for all of the pari-mutuels around the country to be computed through the tote system here, and we'll have the prices for you in a moment. But the blanket of roses signifying that this horse has won the Kentucky Derby.
Also, Impeachment, who finished third, was coupled with Trippy, Commendable, and High Yield. And fourth under the wire was More Than Ready with John Velazquez, and he ran a pretty good race.
High Yield was really compromised because he just never could get in position. He stuck outside early and just couldn't get into the race. So Lucas's run didn't make it today.
So Kent DeSormo starts from the outside, and again, the auxiliary gate has now become the place to be. I mean, it's kind of like the Beverly Hills of the starting gate right now. 4 of the last 6 Derby winners have come from what they call the aux gate. Is the result official? The prices are coming up, or will be very shortly, and again, he will pay at minimum $6. In fact, it's $6.60, $5.60, and $4. Aptitude at $9.80 and $5.80, and the 4-horse entry, including Impeachment, at $4, with the $2 exacta paying $66. Kent DeSormo was there in '98, there again in 2000, as Fusaichi Pegasus wins the 126th running of the Kentucky Derby. To the winner's circle we will go when we come back to Louisville. And we're back in Louisville. Again, a look at the prices with Fusaichi Pegasus paying $660, and there at the bottom, the exacta at $66. The Tri pays $435. The Superfecta more than $1,600. And time now for the Morgan Stanley Dean Witter Measure of Success replay. Joined again by Dave Johnson, Hank Goldberg, and we have him isolated as he breaks here. Number 12, Fusaichi Pegasus. What do you think of him at the start, Dave?
Well, he got away cleanly, but the interesting thing was how Kent DeSormo guided him to the inside. Everybody thought that when they chose that outside gate that he was going to stay outside. A gutsy move as Kent DeSormo rode the rail, especially down the backstretch. Here he is just behind Burrell with Marlon St. Julian, and Kent DeSormo is looking and cooking.
And then, Hank, as we all know, every year it could be a real cavalry charge and a lot of bumping around that first turn, but not today for this horse.
No, it was a remarkably clean race, and he took him into what could have been no man's land going into the rail like that, taking his chances of getting blocked, but he wasn't, and he just got a tremendous trip from DeSormo. Look at how confidently DeSormo was riding this horse.
And how willing the horse is moving.
And right outside of him at this particular moment is Aptitude, and these two will wind up 1-2. So here they were well back in the field as DeSormo takes him along the rail, moves him in front of Aptitude, and now the race will really begin, Dave.
And if you saw Kent DeSormo fooling with his goggles, he actually pulled one or two pairs down. He must have gotten some dirt in his face. Now with clean sailing in front of him and with clean goggles, we'll watch Fusaichi Pegasus take the 126th run for the Roses. There goes China Visit with a quick move in the all-blue colors.
You know, the thing I liked about this horse is that he has 2 to 3 gears in a race. If you notice there, he ran up behind a couple of horses, and Kent took him back ever so briefly, and then he got into that second gear and just gets back into that easy gait, and here he takes off again.
Hank, he might have shown 4 or 5 gears today.
Yep. And here's where you need a little bit of racing luck. They're bunched up in front of him, but he swings him to the outside, and he's home free.
Well, he is a sports car. You know that. So he's going to have all those gears, and now the explosion. You know, as we've seen from him before, when he sees the stretch, that says to him, time to take off.
All the other jockeys using their whips, Kent DeSormo using his hands.
The winner of the Kentucky Derby, as we take a look at the final order of finish, Fusaichi Pegasus wins it a length in front of Aptitude, with Impeachment winding up third, and More Than Ready, Wheel Away, who made a strong bid at the end, China Visit, Carul, Captain Steve Warchan, and Deputy Warlock. And then to Trippy, the speed horse, Exchange Rate, Anise. The deputy finished 14th. High Yield, House Hope, who was on the early lead. Commendable, Ronton, and Graham Hall finished last. And now it's time for the adjulant winning moment. I guess you could call this the adulation winning moment as well. The Fusaichi Pegasus connections.
And there is a sense of melancholy that's attached to it, and that's the fact that this may be the last time we see you on the winner's stand, but you've been up here a long time, and we really appreciate it. It gives me great pleasure to introduce our governor, Governor Paul Patton, who will present the trophy to the winners.
Well, Jim, it's certainly my pleasure to present this symbol of the best 3-year-old in the world, that is Fusaichi.
Close, but not a cigar.
Pegasus, and to Mr. Good to see
Sakaguchi.
You. Good to see you. Congratulations.
Let's have a word with Mr. Sakaguchi, or actually his interpreter, Mickey Suge. Congratulations, first of all, on a wonderful victory.
Thank you.
Okay. And you realize, of course, this is the first time that a favorite has won the Kentucky Derby since 1979. What obvious... You got it?
Yeah.
No, we didn't get it because we didn't have the mic there. Say it once again.
79年以来、本命馬がダービーには勝っていないんですけれども。
Okay, one day, however, your horse is going to have to retire. Where will he go?
いつかこの馬もフサイチペガサスも引退の日を迎えるんですが、その時にはどこへ行くのでしょうか。
もう今そういうことを考える余裕がないです。もう感動でいっぱいです。
I am just in awe right now of all the excitement. I don't have room to think about that right now.
We'll get you later. Congratulations again. Over. Excuse me.
この馬はアメリカの大事な宝だから、やはりアメリカに置いておきたいと思います。
There's just one thing that I would like to mention. Fusaichi Pegasus is the treasure of the United States, so I intend to keep him in the United States.
That's all I want to know. Thank you very much. Over to Charlesy.
One thing we know, that Ichi means number one, and he is number one. Trainer Neil Drysdale, you were elected into the Hall of Fame this week. You just gave us a wonderful demonstration of why. You took this colt from unraced to Derby winner in 6 starts. Very carefully planned campaign. Well done.
Thank you very much, Chelsea. He's a very talented horse. I want to thank Mr. Sekiguchi for sending the horse to me. Thank you very much. Domo arigato.
It was also a very beautiful ride by jockey Kent DeSormo. Watch this ride as he threads through. Kent, tell us what it was like.
Well, we had some challenging moments at the 3/8 pole where there was a wall of horses in front of me. And the thing is, though, when I needed him to move forward, I had tons of horse. And full credit to Mr. Fuseo's son, who saw a pretty horse, and he's pretty and fast as well. And Neil had him time-trained, to the minute today. He pulled up, never wouldn't blow out a match. So I'm just thrilled to be here, and thank everyone for giving me the opportunity.
His breeder Arthur Hancock dubbed him Superman as a baby. He was right. Now, we seem moved to ask you about the Preakness.
Well, you know me. I'll just say, let's see how he comes out of this race.
Congratulations to you all, and we'll go back up to Al Michaels.
ABC has covered the Kentucky Derby. Next year we hand the reins to NBC. I've covered it now for 15 consecutive years, and the best part of it is to have worked with a broadcasting treasure. Jim McKay, you are something very special.
So are you. You caught me with that one now. Well, this is our last one for a while. Since 1975, ABC Sports has been privileged to bring you the last 25 winners of the Kentucky Derby in the 20th century, and now the first in the 21st. It's very rewarding to think that that figure represents 20%, 1/5 of all the Kentucky Derby.
In the tank, here are the official results with the favorite, Fusaichi Pegasus, paying $665, $64. Aptitude at $980 and $580. Impeachment, $4 for show. Trifecta at $1251 at $435.
It was almost as if Neil Drysdale had taken Fusaichi Pegasus into the stall before he let him over here and said, okay, buddy, I know how you've been acting before. This is the big day. And it was as if he listened to him. Perfect behavior.
Really, it was a great display of training as well, just the way Neil Drysdale handled the whole week, the whole build-up. He knew what this horse had, and he didn't let it rattle him, and that also showed in his horse. Oh, it's a great pleasure to be joined by Jack Whitaker. Few people put things into words quite the way he does. Jack, your impressions.
Thank you very much, Susie. This was a memorable Derby for 2 very big reasons. First of all, I think it had the deepest quality field of any Derby I've seen in 26 years. And then when the favorite came in with such a stunning performance, we'll remember this for a long, long time to come. The Kentucky Derby came to full flower because of the great PR ability of Colonel Matt Winn when he was president of Churchill Downs. And ever since then, because of these exquisitely bred colts and fillies, the Kentucky Derby has been deep in the embrace of tradition. And thoroughbred racing looks nothing more than tradition. And today, that tradition got another application in the 126 years of this springtime ritual. So now, as we enter the second millennium, Kentucky Derby not only endures, it prospers. Now to Bob Newmeyer.
Jack, I think it's very interesting as we look back at this year's Kentucky Derby that traditional handicappers always wonder about who's going to fire in the last 1/8 of the mile. And I think this year's running a classic example of a horse like Wheel Away that made a run and then couldn't handle the last part of it. Captain Steve actually made the first crack at it, 4 wide, and he went to about mid-stretch until he packed it in. And I don't think it's an accident that 2 of the best bred horses in the race, Fusaichi Pegasus and Aptitude, ran 1-2 in this year's Derby, and I might add they were 3 or 4 lengths clear of the rest of the field. And I think this bodes well for the upcoming sales here in Kentucky in July. And I think some of the people around the country with a lot of money in their pockets are going to look at this Japanese gentleman who paid $4 million for this one and said, hey, if he can do it, I can too. So I think there's a big smile on all the breeders' faces who have the hot sires and those Grade 1 mares, and they probably can't wait for this year's select Keeneland July yearling sale to see if they can get another Fusaichi Pegasus. Back to you.
Bob, Arthur Hancock called this one, called him Superman as a baby. Kent DeSormo wins his second Kentucky Derby. We have so much more to come as we roll on from Churchill Downs.
Peachman finishing third, of course. Wheelaway was right there at the top of the lane, finishing fifth. The Dubai tandem of China Visit and Carul finishing ahead of a lot of the horses that were considered to be leading contenders. Captain Steve beaten 17 lengths. War Chant with blinkers on beaten 20 1/4. And also very disappointing performance by the Deputy, who had not run a bad race in quite a while, pretty much in his whole career. And the Deputy finishes 27 lengths behind Fusaichi Pegasus today in 14th place. And at the very bottom of the field, just barely crossing the finish line, and again a trot, so to speak, is the 19th place finisher, Arkansas Derby winner Graham Hall.
Let's go back down to Jack Whitaker now, who's with the winning trainer.
Thank you, Susie. Here is a very cool and collected Neil Drysdale. While his horse was fractious and acting up, you kept your cool all week long. You knew something we didn't know.
Well, I mean, that's part of his character. And if that disappeared, then I would have been very worried. But he was very happy coming into the race and playing around. And whenever he asks him to do something seriously, he does it.
Doesn't he? Just put his mind to it once he gets in that gate, doesn't he?
Well, not even that. We're just schooling coming into the race. Every time we did something a bit more serious, like go to the gate, he behaved very well. And
well, I noticed on the walk over when he started to jump a little bit, you put a little blanket on him.
Well, he started to get some flies on him, and it was starting to irritate him and sort of sweat him up a little bit. So I was trying to put the fly blanket on, put a fly net on him, and that made him annoyed. So we took it off. And then as soon as he got into the paddock away from the flies and put some cold water on him, and he cooled right down, and then he was good from there on.
Well, he's a good-looking thing, and we hope we're going to see a lot more of him. Neil, congratulations on being elected to the Hall of Fame, and in the same week you win your first Kentucky Derby. Does it get any better than this?
No, it doesn't. It's been a fabulous week. Very humbling.
Well, we hope we're going to see a lot more of you down the road. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Right. Susie?
Well, he had said prior to the race that he hoped it would be like D. Wayne Lucas last year, the Hall of Fame induction during the week and then winning the Kentucky Derby on Saturday, and it was the same thing happened again. Now let's go down to Kenny Rice, who is with Bobby Frankel.
Thank you, Susie. I'm with another Hall of Fame trainer, Bobby Frankel, who came close to winning his first Kentucky Derby with aptitude. Bobby, you told me a minute ago you were ready to run down to the winner's circle at one point, it looked.
Yeah, he was in a good position. He had a hold of the bridle, which is a good sign. But I got to congratulate Neil Drysdale and especially Kent DeSormo, because he rode a brilliant race on his horse. He took a gamble, and it worked out for him, because if he gets stopped one stride, those two, I probably could have won it.
Since aptitude broke his maiden on January 1st out of Santa Anita, he comes back east, runs strong in the Gotham, even stronger in the Wood, and of course we saw what he did today. How much better can aptitude get, you think?
Well, I think as the distance goes on, he might get even a little better. So we're going to skip the Preakness and just head for the Belmont Stakes. Hopefully in 2 days, everything looks good on him.
No doubt about that, then. No Baltimore on to New York?
Oh, without a doubt, no Baltimore. Somebody has to put a gun to my head to go to Baltimore, but nobody's going to do that.
How's it feeling like for you now, back at the Derby, and you look there and you come so close?
Well, maybe I'll win one day. You know, it was fun. I was proud of my horse. Alex rode a good race. But like I said, Kent rode a brilliant race. I mean, he took the spot where I was and took the gamble, and he got through, and that was the difference.
Bobby, thanks for your time. See you at Belmont.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bobby Frankel, the man who trains aptitude. Now let's go over to Bob Newmeyer.
Well, Bobby Frankel, the trainer, has never won a Derby. Neither has this gentleman next to me, Alex Solis, the rider. And Alex, we've got to stop meeting like this. These runner-ups here on the roof of the Jocks room. I remember talking to you after the Captain Bodgett near miss. This was a very, very powerful run by your horse, and I think Frankel's right. Had Kent get stopped on Fusaichi Pegasus one stride, you might have been the winner of this race.
Well, actually, right when we got to the quarter pole, I thought I was a winner. I was moving so easily, and I look up, and right ahead of me, like a length, was Ken just galloping, and I said, oh, shoot, he's going to be tough to beat.
You had a clean trip, though, you tell me. A lot of the riders were telling me that they got around pretty well. Let's pick up your horse.
Yes, right when I got to the half-a-mile pole, I thought I wanted to get him in the beat and get him going and stop going by all the horses that were getting tired already. And not one time I got stopped at all. And like I said, ran the quarter pole out right here. And I said I was going to win, and then I saw Ken just galloping in front of me, and unfortunately, I got beat.
But making this run into the top of the stretch, I mean, you're going by horses like they're standing still, Alex.
Yes, at that point, most of the horses are just really getting very tired. So that's one of the most critical part of the race, right around the 3/8 pole, because they're backing up really fast, and you got to be really alert to what's going on in front of you.
Well, right here, you're relegated to second spot. Kent's just got too much horse on you.
Yeah, way too much, and well, looking forward to the Belmont. I think we have a better chance there.
What do you think of Frankel's decision to skip the Preakness to go to the Belmont? I'm AP Indy out of a Northern Dancer mare with that kind of stride. You might be looking pretty good on that 1.5-mile surface in New York.
I mean, you never can second guess Bobby Frankel. He's a terrific trainer, and he knows what he's doing.
All right, Alex Solis. Tough luck second in the Kentucky Derby. Back to you.
And he's right. You certainly wouldn't second-guess Bobby Frankel. He replaced Brice Blanc with Alex Solis, and that paid off. But I don't understand why he wouldn't run him in the Preakness.
Here's why. This horse is by AP Indy, who won the Belmont Stakes, and his dam Doki is a close relative of Coastal, who won the '79 Belmont Stakes. So right from the start, Bobby said this horse has Belmont Stakes written all over him, and he's going to skip the grind a little bit to have a fresh horse for that one.
It's not worth it in any way to try to go for that Triple Crown.
Well, now that he can't win the Triple Crown, he's just going to kind of back off a little bit, regroup,
right.
And try to spoil a Triple Crown in the Belmont. That's his hope.
Right, absolutely right. Much, much more to come here from Churchill Downs. The 126 Run for the Roses, won by the favorite. We're coming back. Let's go back down to Jack, who is with a very, very happy owner.
A very happy and victorious owner of Fusaichi Pegasus, and with him we have the owner, of course, Mr. Sakaguchi, and the interpreter, Mickey Suke. And Mickey, would you ask the owner here if he can possibly describe his emotion?
今の感動のほどを言葉で説明をしていただきたいと思います。
言葉で説明せということは非常に難しい。もう頭の中はもう感動の嵐でいっぱいで。
It's very difficult to express it in words, but right now my mind is just spinning and spinning with emotion.
Was he ever worried about the horse's performance in the early morning?
今までの朝の調教でいろんな報告がありましたけども、心配の要素にはなっていましたか？
一切そういう心配はしておりませんでした。もうニール調教師ともうペガサスに全幅の信頼を置いてました。
Nothing worried me. I had full faith in both Fusaichi Pegasus and the trainer, Mr. Drysdale.
And, of course, now he thinks the $4 million purchase price was well worth it.
4ミリオンの、その払った、報酬はたっぷりと戻ってきましたね。
いえ、もうお金のことよりかロマン、そして挑戦でした。私は今回この馬を買ったの。
Will he keep the horse in the United States?
馬をアメリカに残しておきますか？はい。
これはアメリカのプロスペクターというとアメリカの宝ですからアメリカに置いておきます。
Mr. Prospector was the treasure of the United States, so his progeny should remain in the United States as well.
Thank him very much. Thank you very much. Susie?
Thanks, Jack. Well, as Bob alluded to earlier, the $4 million purchase, does it change at all the thought process of owners that, well, maybe if I do spend enough, I can go out and win the Derby?
It might, and Mr. Sakaguchi has spent money on horses before and has made it pay off. He won the Japanese Derby with a horse called Fusaichi Concord. So he's had some success with these Fusaichis before.
More to come from Churchill Downs. Lots more analysis and interviews with winning connections as well as the runners-up. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
How does this one feel?
Jack, I tell you, I don't need wings to fly out of here. I'm on cloud 9 again. This is just as good as it gets.
Tell us about the trip.
I had a wonderful trip. I had horse. A little concerned early because he was a little laggard, but he was comfortable, and that was the most important part. I see we have us on monitor right now. Right now, I'm thinking I just need to slide over and get closer to the fence as I drew the 18 hole, and I'm falling back, but he's comfortable, and he's just under his own powers right now. He's
very relaxed.
Very nice, very, very relaxed. I've got these two horses in front of me here that are slowing it down, and quite frankly, I had to slow this big. Look at this size of this colt, and I'm just slowing him down and going to bend him, go through this first turn behind these two guys and keep his face clean. I think that's the integral part here, because with all the sand in their face, you know, and going up in their nose, they can't breathe.
Well, we saw you flipping some goggles.
Well, it was sticking, you know, as you can tell, the track is very moist, therefore it sticks where it lands. So at that point, I moved inside. I got a rail trip all the way down the backside, but I'm very far back right now. You can see I'm starting to move my arms a little more. I'm starting to push on him, and there I go. He starts to progress. He's doing it very, very, very comfortable, and I'm taking in the sights in front of me. Right now, he slows down on his own because there's nowhere to go. There's horses directly in front of me, and right about now, everyone quickened. The horse in front of me peeled out and went for his run to victory, and I was able to slide forward and just move forward with him.
Beautiful move there.
Certainly, and it continued. It happened again. Now there's another horse in front of me. We can't see it right now, but he does it again. He moves out and attempts to win the race. Now I'm at the last flight. There's one flight of horses in front of me. I have to slow him down to get around. I think it was the 14.
Yeah.
I slow him down here, wait for the 14 to outrun me so I can get out, peel him out, and Jack, let me tell you, right here, he's getting his legs back under him, and now I say go. And he took off like you wouldn't believe. The race was over. It was just a matter of making him stay attentive to my instruction. I need you to keep moving forward, keep striding towards the wire, and he did everything. I mean, look, he's just a beautiful, beautiful horse. Congratulations to Mr. Fusaichi's son. He bought a horse that was pretty when he was a yearling, and this pretty boy can run.
And you didn't. I saw once you hit him with a whip or touched him. Huh?
Yeah, I reached back and gave him a little love tap. Hello to everybody in Maurice who's
be a party there tonight.
A big party. It's my hometown, so yes, I did encourage him. I did keep him going with one love tap to the tail and a couple of shoulder spankings to just make sure that he didn't get to gawking and looking around and somebody come and get him.
Well, Kent, congratulations again.
Thank
We're
you
going
so
to see a
much.
lot more of you this summer.
Let's make this a habit.
Thank you. And now, let's go to Susan.
Well, we've heard that Fusaichi Pegasus doesn't need much urging, didn't need many in the prep races coming in. San Felipe, no whip at all, effortless, and we wonder if he's really even peaked at this point.
Probably not, because he's a lightly raced horse, and that was certainly an impressive run. And, you know, after that play-by-play by Kit Desormeaux, we can all just go home now. We've already heard just about everything there is to say.
He wasn't such a great rider. Yeah, we should just put him in one of these seats. That really was a great explanation of the race, and for him to say he was just so comfortable, didn't really mind sitting back in the field because he knew what he had left of him.
And Kent didn't lose his cool. That's a very important thing to note also. If you're on a favorite like Fusaichi Pegasus, and he just kind of eases his way, relaxed manner out of the starting gate, a lot of jockeys would tend to rush him up into contention and panic a little bit. He just let the horse find his own stride, and Desormeaux rode a marvelous race as well as the kind of race the horse ran was great.
In his 8th Kentucky Derby, Kent Desormeaux picks up his 2nd Kentucky Derby win. It was 1998. We'll never forget that great reaction when he won aboard Real Quiet. And here he is this year, Kent Desormeaux, Kentucky Derby.
Thank you, Susie. Any trainer out there knows how difficult it is to keep a 3-year-old healthy and going and make it to the first Saturday in May. And this man, Todd Pletcher, in his first Derby, brought 4 in here. And with impeachment and more than ready, he runs 3rd and 4th in your first Derby as a head trainer. Todd, congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, we're really pleased with the way those 2 horses ran, and you know, got our adrenaline pumping pretty good when we turned for home. More than ready to cut the corner and looked like, you know, he had a real shot at it, and you know, it was one of the few pace horses to still be around and have something to say at the end, so we were real happy about it.
And with more than ready, once again, he proves that he can keep going the distance.
Well, he's certainly gotten a lot further than everyone said he would, and you know, it's a real credit to the horse because he's a tremendous horse with a lot of heart and desire, and he lays it on the line every time, and really proud of him.
With Trippy and Graham Hall and impeachment, and also with more than ready, as we take a look at the last 16th of the race right now, you've got a lot of decisions to make with 4 horses in the next couple of weeks.
Well, you know, you need 24, 48 hours to sort things out and see how everybody comes back. But, you know, we won't rule anything out at this time, or we won't commit to anything either. We'll just kind of see how they come back. We'll probably head back to New York and get back to our base and see how everybody trains the next couple weeks.
And impeachment, a nice effort today out there.
He was closing well. He was finished fast. The last 100 yards was real strong for him. And, you know, you wouldn't think that the Preakness would jump out at you as the you know, his kind of race, but on the other hand, he's improving. It seems like every time we run him, he gets a little better. So, you know, we'll make a decision with Mr. Campbell this week and see if Pimlico's on our mind. Maybe we'll wait for the Belmont.
You've been a busy man. I know it's been a long day, and what's this first Derby experience been like for you?
I don't know. It hadn't sunk in yet. It was obviously good. You know, we're pleased with the way the horses ran, and I imagine Monday we'll probably let it all absorb.
We'll see you down the Triple Crown Road.
Thanks.
Thank you very much, Todd Fletcher, the man who brought 4 horses in here, running 3rd and 4th today with Impeachment and More Than Ready. Susie?
Thanks, Kenny. And beyond the actual placement, which performance impressed you more Than Ready or Impeachment?
Well, Impeachment finished a half length ahead of More Than Ready, but I thought More Than Ready's race was the more impressive of the two, and that's because of the pace. I mean, they went a half mile in 45.99. They went at 6 furlongs in 109.99. All the horses that were close to the lead shifted to the back of the pack, except for More Than Ready. He was tucked right in behind the leaders, and the horse that everyone said couldn't get the 1.25 miles. It may not be his best distance, but he hung in there a lot tougher than a lot of those other horses that were up there fighting the pace. Impeachment, on the other hand, was way back early. The pace was more in his favor. More Than Ready could be a lot tougher contender at the Preakness if they choose to go that route, the shorter distance of 1 mile and 3/16. And a lot of times, horses that do stay up close to the pace, a hot pace in the Derby and back up, run a lot better in Baltimore.
And Todd mentioned that they have a lot of sorting out to do. I mean, typically, how many horses would you carry through the Triple Crown?
Well, usually you can pretty much cut the Derby field in half by the time you get to the Preakness. And as far as the horses that are in this race, and then you'll pick up a few stragglers, so we'll probably have at least a 12, 13 horse field in Baltimore.
Okay, let's send it back down to Bob Newmeyer with Robbie Alvarado.
Susie, nationally, this guy next to me might, it's kind of a well-kept secret, I think. This guy is putting up some serious numbers this year. A top 10 rider on the money list, Robbie Alvarado, who rode Captain Steve, and you look like you were a prime contender at the top of the lane. You made that first 4-wide sweep, and for a moment, I think you stuck your head in front.
Yeah, we certainly had a little thrill for a while there. Captain, I tried to give him a little chance. He put in his patent a little run. It just wasn't good enough today.
We're going to pick it up, Robbie, if we can, on the far turn, and then pick up the run of Captain Steve. And I think the issue all along was, could he get the ground? Could he get the 1.25 miles?
Well, I thought he had been training good enough to get the ground. Bob had the utmost confidence in him. He told me early in the week, he said, when you need him, you ask on him, no matter where it's at. He said, because you got a lot fitter horse today. And like he said, if you need him earlier, go for it.
Now, Wheel Away and Richard Migliore made a big move himself, and he kind of drifted in towards the rail and looked like he might have bothered Captain Steve a little bit. I thought perhaps the horse had no more gas in the tank anyway. Was that the case?
Right, well, I was losing ground, and obviously I don't think it affected the outcome of the race because I was a well-beaten 8th. But always in these positions here, the public don't know what's going on. So I like to see clean races, but he didn't bother me that much. Like I said, I was losing ground, and Meg said he's sorry, apologized, but it was no big deal.
A remarkably clean run race, considering 19 horses, Robbie. A comment about Kent DeSormo in the winner from you.
I was very impressed how clean the race went, and Kent DeSormo's horse, they did an exceptional job bringing back the Drysdale team. I mean, all during the week, everybody was trying to find negatives about the horse, and today he proved them wrong. He showed that he's a phenomenal animal, an athlete, and he's doing all the right things for Derby Day.
All right, that's Robbie Alvarado, Captain Steve. A lot of folks liked him, training well. Ran his race, just couldn't get that last 1/4 mile, and that happens to many a 3-year-old here at Churchill. Susie and Randy, back to you.
And anytime Robbie Alvarado has a safe ride, it's a good ride for him. Kentucky Derby 126 does not just today, perhaps the final Kentucky Derby, at least for now. We're not sure how long. Could that mean that for announcer Dave Johnson, it's his last? We go back down to Jack Whitaker.
Thank you, Susie. It is the last call, at least, with ABC, and it must have been a bittersweet day. A stunning race, but your last one.
No bitterness at all. It was the sweetest, one of the sweetest days of my life to work with Jim McKay and Charles C. And now to have a few words with you, Jack, it's a great afternoon.
Was that one of the best races you ever seen?
Absolutely, one of the best derbies that I've ever seen. And you know what you had after the end of the race was you had one winner and 18 horses with no excuses.
That's right. It was a very cleanly run race.
It was.
Everybody was well behaved.
Coming to the gate, no problems. And then once they started the race, a gutsy move by Kent DeSormo. He had the outside post, but then interestingly enough, he took the inside route down the backstretch, which I think was, it wasn't the key to victory because he probably could have gone from anywhere on the track. But what a racehorse. He's convinced me. I picked against him.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Well, here he is on the rail.
How many gears do you think he had?
I counted 3 this time.
Well, he moved so willingly when he was on the inside with horses in front of him, and then the luck came into play, but he didn't need very much luck. And as you watch, all the other jockeys are flailing away in the final 16th of a mile. They're using their whips, and Kent DeSormo was using his mind and his hands.
Mm-hmm.
It was an impressive performance. Louisville has a new hero this afternoon, and I mean, the horse was bred in Kentucky with the name of Fusaichi Pegasus. Maybe America will have a hero. I mean, with the aptitude possibly sitting out the Preakness, who's going to beat him there?
I don't know, but it looks like a very good 3-year-old campaign coming up, even with this very strong horse. And we do have the possibility, I think, of having a really super horse.
We do. Well, the first time that I called the Kentucky Derby here, it was affirmed, so maybe the last time we'll have another Triple Crown winner.
What a way to go out.
Ah, yes.
All right, Dave Johnson, thanks.
Jack, it's always great to
thank you. Susie?
Thanks, Jack and Dave. I wonder about some of the horses that were such great stories going in. House Hope was really setting the pace for a good part of the race. Then what happened?
The pace got him. It was just too fast of a pace. 6 furlongs in just a little bit faster than 110 with some pressure from Trippy and then later from some other horses is just too much for House Hope. I mean, we've talked about that beforehand. And it was too much for Trippy. They both faded and finished way back in the pack, and I doubt if we'll see them go on to Baltimore.
And War Chant was going to be the other horse again that could possibly have finished in the money, but no.
You know, we had talked going in all week long about how deep this field was. It was one of the deepest Kentucky Derbies that we'd ever seen, and pretty much Fusaichi left the field in shambles because a lot of the horses that were supposed to run well were beaten 15, 20, 25 lengths even. You know, I made the comment that there may be a 13-horse field in Baltimore, and I think the heat may be getting to me a little bit out here because the more I think about it, I don't know how many horses are going to be willing to go to Baltimore to challenge him there.
It seemed as though all the talk before the race was that so many horses could challenge, but then it was broken down into 1, 2, even 3 different groups, and some just left so far behind.
Right. You'll probably have more than ready there. Red Bullet is already waiting for the Preakness, maybe snuck in. Those will be the logical contenders for Fusaichi Pegasus, Fusaichi, and he's got a heck of a shot at the Triple Crown, and this would be the 4th consecutive year, if he were to win the Preakness, that we would go to the Belmont with a chance at a Triple Crown.
We've been saying his name all day. I think we should just take the tack of his trainer who just calls him the Colt. By any name, he is the Kentucky Derby champion of 2000. We'll be back.
Gate, first of all, watch the rail. That is Anise, who ducked to the inside and got off slowly, well behind the field. And, of course, he was never able to catch up and make up that much ground.
Randy, on the other side of the spectrum, about in mid-screen, lower screen, in the green and gold is Pat Day on High Yield. And Pat told me after the race here in the jocks room that he just got hung out helplessly wide into this first turn, and the horse really got discouraged because he's a free runner. He's usually on or near the lead, and he said the post really did him in. He never really get into the race because he's in the 3rd flight now in the extreme outside and really was not a factor.
And as they went into the turn, I couldn't help but think back to last year and contrast this Derby with the last Derby. There was no pace in the last Derby. The horses were all bunched together in 99. Nobody could find any room. They were bouncing off of each other. In this spot, one reason why it was such a cleanly run race this year is because the pace was so fast, they were stretched out, and there was some room to navigate.
Jerry Bailey on War Chant told me after the race that he had no excuse, that he had a position that he thought was a contending one, but when he had to push the button and ask for more, nothing was forthcoming. And I think, Randy, we're getting close to the point in the race that really amazes me. I think that is Kent now on the bottom right of your screen. and how he and Aptitude start picking off horses like they're standing still.
At this spot down on the rail into the turn in a 19-horse field in the Kentucky Derby with a lot of horses, you would consider that a bad lie.
Yeah, you see Kent now on the inside just kind of maneuvering for position. Solis now in the pink cap behind the yellow silks of DeSormo is in the middle of the racetrack. He's spotting him now a length and a half, and now it's can they get through. What a great shot this is. You don't get a chance to see a view like this very often, and you see Solis going to the whip there on Aptitude, trying to catch up, but DeSormo is just pumping those hands. Can't get there. And as they approach the finish line, DeSormo will be about a length and a half, it appears to me, clear of the driving Solis on Aptitude. And the fellow who made another impressive run to me was Impeachment and Craig Perret, who came, and there they are celebrating and getting a bit back on their $4 million investment. And I think they're thinking that that's pretty good business right now. But Perret told me that he really had a clear sailing as well on the rail around on Impeachment, and he had no excuse. You know, it was amazing that every rider I talked to here in the room said, you know, I had a good trip, and he had no excuses. Frankie Dettori, someone asked him about his trip, and he said, hey, I just needed a better horse. Let's go out to Kenny Rice.
Thanks, Bob. I'm back here with Janine Sahadi. And Janine, a lot of people think that everybody that has a horse in the race as a trainer gets to see the race clearly. Did you get a chance to really see the deputy out there? Do you need to look at the replay sometime?
Yeah, I'll have to watch the replay. I mean, I saw him go by me the first time, and I was sitting in the box seat section, and he looked okay. He looked semi-comfortable, and he seemed to be okay. And then I saw that we sort of got shuffled back going into the first turn, and by the time he was, you know, midway down the backside, I could see he really wasn't going anywhere. So, you know, I was just watching what I could, you know, from what I could see, I just wanted to make sure he was okay. I went back to the test barn, and he's already back here now. He cooled out fine. He's very tired. Chris really didn't have anything much to say other than the fact that he was very tired and pulled up good, and just didn't really seem to be into it at all. So, you know, I'm disappointed, but I came here with the best of intentions, and my horse tried his best, and we will go home and regroup and, you know, get him ready for things later on in the summer.
You say go home, back to California. Any chance of being back in the Triple Crown, or do you wait for the races later?
No, I don't have any desire to. I want to take my horse home and give him a little bit. He's been going pretty good for the last, you know, 4 months, and he deserves a little bit of a break, and I'm really excited to get this horse on the grass again down the road. So it was fun, and this town, the city has been amazing, and everybody's been very supportive, and you know, I'm disappointed, but life goes on. It's just the Kentucky Derby after all.
Safe trip home.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Janine Sahadi, who probably has been the most accommodating trainer in the last 2 weeks here at the Derby, interviewed from coast to coast. Back to you.
Kenny, I think she speaks for her horse, but I think more so for herself, that she wants to just get away from all of this. I mean, she was, such the center of not just attention, but controversy as well. And she mentioned getting him back on the turf. That's where he started. Does that surprise you?
Not at all. Doesn't surprise me at all. You know, Jack Whitaker once elegantly, as always, described the Derby as 90% anticipation. Well, now what's left is the reality, and what a great contrast we saw. We saw the jubilation of the Sakaguchis, and then we saw the heartbreak of Janine Sahadi.
And the last 3 winners have come out of the Santa Anita Derby, and of course the deputy won that race. Is that where he peaked? I mean, he looked so powerful, looked so strong, but then the field just ate him up.
It's hard to tell. I mean, certainly he regressed today, and I don't know what the excuses would be. I know Janine's going to go over him with a fine-tooth comb to see if there's anything physical. Hopefully there's not, but he was way off his Santa Anita Derby form here.
As you said, 2 different sides of the Kentucky Derby, the great jubilation and the tremendous, tremendous disappointment. Still more to come here from Louisville, Kentucky. A very hot, humid May day. The 126 Run for the Roses in the books. We're back with more. Let's send it around to all the guys, beginning with Kenny Rice.
Thanks, Susie. Well, for me today was watching a $4 million dream come to fruition. I was there in 1998 in the Keeneland Sales Pavilion when Fusaichi Sakaguchi, with his advisor, the noted trainer John Ward, paid $4 million for that Mr. Prospector yearling. Turned out to be Fusaichi Pegasus, who turns out to be this year's Kentucky Derby winner. And in recent years, of course, we've had a few horses come in that maybe surprised people with their pedigree, outran their bloodline, so to speak. Not today. He was royally bred by Arthur Hancock and Stonerside Farm, and he comes in here and wins a $4 million payoff for him in taking the Roses today. Bob?
My last word involves Kent DeSormo. You know, it wasn't that long ago when DeSormo was viewed as a wise guy know-it-all in California. He lost some business because of it. From time to time, Bobby Frankel, Neil Drysdale even, Bob Baffert has dropped DeSormo from their racing world. But I think Kent's a little more mature and a little more humble. And, of course, he had the issue with his youngest son. His family found out his death. And I just sense a maturity about this young man. He didn't wave his stick wildly when he went through the finish line. Just a good, solid, professional job from a very talented rider. Randy?
Well, there's going to be a lot of crow eating over the next couple of days, and I'm not the only one that's going to have a heaping helping. Fusaichi certainly had no attitude problems at all, and he proved that, yes, indeed, he is something special. Neil Drysdale had been questioned, his training methods. He got the job done, and Kent DeSormo did too.
A lot of hype, but in the end, really, it's all worth it. We have a great champion, and he could bring great things to the sport of thoroughbred racing. Thanks for watching. For everyone who contributed to ESPN and ESPN2's coverage, thanks for watching. I'm Susie Colber. NASCAR Today is next.
Stephen DeFord has something to say about this Derby as they turn for home. A little more than a quarter of a mile to go. And down the stretch they come in the Derby. And here's the winner. It's Thunder Goat, Lucas Wiggins. How about that?
So he has dropped. The Deputy is the second choice. Then the 4-horse entry is the third choice. And Captain Steve right now being held at odds of 7-1. But all eyes are on Fusaichi Pegasus at odds of 5-2. The morning line, he was 9-5, so still a bit of an overlay. Everybody looking at him, but keep in mind now some very serious contenders in this race. Several horses who would be no surprise were they to wind up in the winner's circle. Let's take a closer look at some of them right now.
Two-time Derby-winning trainer Bob Baffert hopes Captain Steve can send him back to the winner's circle. As a 2-year-old, Captain Steve won 4 of 8 starts, including the Hollywood Futurity. The captain is winless at age 3, but this is a familiar road for trainer Baffert.
I think it's the same scenario as coming in here with real quiet. He won the Hollywood Futurity, and then he never won again until he won the Kentucky Derby. So hopefully that angle will work for us again, and that's what I'm counting on.
With 12 starts, High Yield is the most experienced horse in the race. Trainer Wayne Lucas will saddle a proven commodity who has already earned more than $1 million and comes off a stirring win in the Bluegrass Stakes, holding off More Than Ready, another colt with a lot of experience and trained by a Lucas protege, Todd Fletcher. In 1999, this colt was a monster. His 10-length win at the Sanford Stakes at Saratoga, one of 5 victories. Bred in Ireland, the Deputy raced in England as a 2-year-old, then was shipped to Santa Anita and won his first race at age 3 on turf. Trained by Janine Sahadi, the Deputy appears capable of adjusting to any kind of pace, an important factor in a big field.
I think the Deputy is a very versatile horse, and I think versatility is a very good thing when you're talking about this kind of race.
In his last prep, the Santa Anita Derby, the Deputy knocked off 3 other horses who will be running today.
Dave Johnson, so many things to think about. One thing, though, that you have to take into consideration, none of these horses has been 1.25 miles. And outside of those who go on to the Belmont, none of these horses figure to go 1.25 miles ever again.
And now when you handicap a race, usually you look back to see their best performances. Not so with the Derby. You have to anticipate who's going to run their best race today. And for that reason, I think horses like Wheel Away and More Than Ready, Captain Steve, and High Yield still have their best shot yet to fire.
If Captain Steve runs his best race today, Bob Baffert will wind up in the winner's circle again, 3rd time in 4 years, as we go to Leslie Visser.
Al, Captain Steve is not the favorite on this first Saturday in May, but he is a story for all time. The horse was named after Captain Steve Thompson of the Louisville Police Department, who came to the aid of owner Mike Pegram in 1997 when Pegram was arrested and handcuffed for carrying a concealed weapon. It had been an unopened gift. Well, now Captain Steve has taken the pressure off Bob Baffert, who a few weeks ago tossed one of his famous wisecracks at Janine Sahadi prior to the Santa Anita Derby, but Sahadi was not amused.
By the way, who's training the Deputy, you or Janine? I want
We're not going to say. We're not going to say.
thank God my horse has a lot of class, because there's a lot of people that don't.
Things, we are told, that should be experienced in our lifetime. Big Ben tolling the hour in London, the view from the Statue of Liberty's crown in New York Harbor, a space shot at Cape Canaveral, moonlight on the Taj Mahal. And we who live in the world of sports would add to that list sunrise on Derby Day at Churchill Downs.
Churchill Downs, back to capacity for the Kentucky 100,000 strong.
And they're off. And here comes Sunday Silence. The and down the stretch they come. Here's the finish. That's the way it's going to be, Secretary. Sunday Silence, unbridled, winning it by 4 lengths.
Many millions of dollars are spent each year in pursuit of this familiar trophy. For each horse, it's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. And today, the word super horse is already being used to describe the favorite Fusaichi Pegasus. But he faces a big field whose connections, the owners, the trainers, and the jockeys represent 13 countries on 5 continents. One trainer represents the world of women, Janine Sahadi, trainer of the Irish-bred The Deputy, ridden by Chris McCarron. Trainer Wayne Lucas has started 35 horses in the Derby and won 4 of them. Today he has another multiple entry, the best of which appears to be High Yield. And so one more time we return to Churchill Downs. One more time we grow misty-eyed when they sing that song. One more time we think back to great races and noble horses. One more time we experience a race like none other, the world's greatest horse race, the Kentucky Derby. Well, it's brand new every year, and yet it's the same. The twin spires still crown the grandstand. The ladies once again come in their colorful hats and dresses. And soon the stars of the show will appear. The horses, a new cast every year, but always 3-year-olds, teenagers in human terms. Well, to open the new century, we have a frighteningly big field of 19 headed by a Japanese-owned and Kentucky-bred colt called Fusaichi Pegasus. Already, the experts seem ready to place him with the all-time greats if he just wins today. It's the most international field ever, as we said, with 13 countries represented from 5 continents. And as always, it's the first leg of the Visa Triple Crown, with that elusive $5 million prize waiting for the horse who can win today, then take the Preakness and the Belmont, and no horse has done that in 22 years. Well, there's so much to learn before the race begins, so let's go right away to the man who covers sports from Monday night in the fall to Saturday afternoon in May, my colleague Al Michaels. Al?
Thank you, Jim. International theme indeed. The favorite sounds like some Japanese Greek restaurant. And the question is he a super horse? He comes in as the most hyped horse since Arazi in 1992, but no favorite has won this race in 79. And most of the so-called super horses have been a lot of hype and hope and hot air. Arazi finished well up the track. We'll find out today if this horse, though, who is beautifully bred and cost $4 million as a yearling, is the real deal. We'll also find out if Wayne Lucas can win a 5th Kentucky Derby. He has 3 entrants. And can Bob Baffert, who's kind of been a little quiet this time around in the underdog role, can he win a 3rd Derby in 4 years? A big field of 19. We had 1 horse scratch out on Thursday, and let's take a look right now at the field. And first, some conditions for this race. The purse over $1 million, the distance 1.25 miles, the classic distance. The track is fast. We've had some sprinkles in the last couple of hours, and we expect some more, but right now it is simply cloudy. The sun trying to break through. First, we have a 4-horse entry because of overlapping commonality of ownership. Trippy, Commendable, Impeachment, and High Yield. 2 trained by Todd Fletcher, 2 by Wayne Lucas. You like one, you get all 4 at odds of 5 to 1. Then China Visit and Carul come in from Dubai. The Godolphin entrants are 22 to 1. Globalized was the horse scratched on Thursday. He would have been on the rail. Number 4, Anise, last year's Breeders' Cup Juvenile winner, 16 to 1. Aptitude is a closer, 11 to 1. Hal's Hope, a great human interest story. We'll tell you about that later at 19 to 1. Then there's Captain Steve. That's the Baffert trained horse at 7 to 1. War Chant with Hall of Famer Jerry Bailey in the irons at 9-1. More Than Ready's had a good career thus far, 10-1, perhaps a bit of an overlay. The Deputy is 4-1, trained by Janine Sahadi. The second choice, Graham Hall, the Arkansas Derby winner at 40-1. The favorite, Fusaichi Pegasus, and he's an overlay right now. He was 9-5 in the morning line, 3-1 on the board. Exchange rate at 50-1. Then Wheelaway, Deputy Warlock, and Ronton form the field like one. You get all three at 19-1. We have folks all over the place, so let's begin right now on the backstretch and check in with Charles C. Canty.
Fusaichi Pegasus' quirky behavior could be his biggest adversary this afternoon. He's a rambunctious fellow, and he sometimes can just be downright willful. So we'll be watching to see whether this huge crowd distracts him from acting up or whether it just makes matters worse. In the meantime, we'll check in with Hank Goldberg.
Can the B horse do it again? The trainer's other horse ignored by the bettors. Like Charismatic last year when Wayne Lucas also had Cat Thief. Neil Drysdale has two this afternoon, Fusaichi Pegasus, who everybody's talking about, and War Chant. Let's go to Dave Johnson.
There are a lot of families tied to this year's big race, both equine and human. How about Unbridled? 10 years ago, he won the big race, and he has two sons in today's race, Anise and Wheelaway. And Wheelaway is trained by John Kimmel, who will try and win it for his father, Caesar, who owns the horse. Let's go to Leslie Visser.
Dave, the spotlight has been on women this week. Jockey Julie Crone was elected to the Hall of Fame, and trainer Janine Sahadi is trying to become the first woman ever to win the Blanket of Roses. She says she's not trying to make a feminist statement, she's just trying to win the race. But as a former journalism major from USC, she appreciates a good storyline, to see if luck be a lady.
I've been around horses my whole life. My dad's been racing since the early 60s. I started training in 1993. Was working in publicity and marketing at Hollywood Park, and decided if everybody else can do it, maybe so can I. I've never ever thought about being in the Derby because you don't think about things that you don't think are within your reach. I always called it the D word. Everybody said, you have Derby fever, and I said, no, it's not even fever. I call it malaria. It's like full dementia. I didn't start training with some political agenda. I'm just, training a great horse. If I can, steer a young girl in this direction, I say go for it. It's a great job.
Best finish thus far by a woman trainer, Shelley Riley, in 1992. She trained Casual Eyes, finished second to Lily T. Well, we have horses, we have roses, and we have, of course, mint juleps at the Kentucky Derby. Lots of sugar, lots of bourbon, lots of mint. I'm having one after the race with an Alka-Seltzer back. And will be partly cloudy afternoon with intermittent showers. The Goodyear Blimp looking down upon a crowd of more than, they're telling us now, 153,000 people here in Louisville. And we go to the first turn again, and Jim McKay. Jim.
All right, Al. Well, trainer Neil Drysdale, born in Britain, resident in California, winner of 5 Breeders' Cup races, among other things, was elected to Horse Racing's Hall of Fame just last week. But the crowning jewel of any trainer's career has escaped him. Not only has he never won the Kentucky Derby, he's never had a horse run in it. But now comes a colt named Fusaichi Pegasus. Pegasus, you remember, the winged horse so glorious in battle that Zeus sent him to the heavens to live forever as a constellation in the night sky. Some reputation for a mere mortal horse to live up to. And yet, the present-day Pegasus is regally bred by the late great Mr. Prospector and has romped in the same fields as 2 Derby winners. Breeder Arthur Hancock, a superstitious man who dreams, then makes the dreams come true, spotted him on the day he was born.
I remember he, as soon as he hit the ground, he started trying to stand up, and I named him right there on the spot. I said, he's a little Superman. He's unbelievable. And I told people at the sale, that I thought he was the best horse we'd ever raised. And I said, if he can't run, then I'll never make another prediction as long as I live.
A Japanese businessman named Fusao Sekaguchi paid $4 million for him at the famous Keeneland sale, the biggest price in 15 years. The colt's first name, Fusaichi, combines the owner's name and the suffix ichi, meaning the first. And it was the fortunate fate of Neil Drysdale to become the colt's trainer. He had obvious talent, this horse, but also a mind of his own and a fun-loving spirit.
He's a real character. He's just ebullient. He's full of life, and wants to enjoy himself, and he'll buck and do all sorts of things.
Well, he got attention here very quickly last week when he threw his exercise rider one morning. Was that just for fun, or might the great Derby Day crowd panic the fractious colt?
His feeling good has nothing to do with the way he's preparing for the race. This is just part of his character. In fact, it would be worrisome if he suddenly stopped playing around.
Well, while playing around between races, the colt, after only one race as a 2-year-old, has been undefeated this season, and in 4 victories become the Derby favorite. But Trader Drysdale knows what happens to favorites in the Derby.
Being the favorite, historically, the last 20-odd years, has not been a good situation in this race because none of them were won. So I think you have to take the favoritism with a bit of a pinch of salt.
So Fusaichi Pegasus has great talent, a legend, the opinion of the experts, and the whole nation of Japan behind him. But there is a subplot. His stablemate, Warchad, will also be in the field, wearing blinkers for the first time and carrying on his back none other than Jerry Bailey, winner of 2 derbies. Might the humble stablemate outrun the madcap superstar? Well, and there is the owner, Mr. Sakaguchi, with his daughter-in-law, Yukari. He says that if a horse's vibes don't match his vibes, he doesn't buy the horse. Don't ask me what the Japanese word for vibes is. Over to Charlesy now.
Under normal circumstances, this is a time of nervous apprehension as the clock counts down to Derby post time, but for Kenta Sormo, maybe a little more anxiety than normal because Fusaichi Pegasus, how do you think he'll react to this crowd?
Well, there's been a lot of press, I would say, media about he's a time bomb ready to explode. It's exactly the contrary, Charlesy. He doesn't have a care in the world, and most of the time as his antics were in Aqueduct for the Wood Memorial, was simply his desire to stand and take a look around.
Kent, I know this has been the most difficult week of your life for you and your wife, Sonia, when you were informed that your son Jacob was born deaf. And I just know that there are a great many people out there suffering the same heartbreak. What would you say to them?
Well, one thing's for sure, it has certainly brought my wife and I and the 3 of us who can hear, my 7-year-old son Josh, much closer together. One of the things that happened with Josh was, Sonia was upset. She was devastated upon the news, and Josh was alongside of her, and she was upset, and he looked over and he said, "Mom, don't worry, Jake and I will be able to have secrets that no one else will know." So, he was been special with it. But I think most of all, growing up where I am in the racing industry, it's such a hustle and bustle. I mean, everybody works so hard. And we just kind of stop and take a look around because now all he has is his eyes. He can't hear all the hustle and bustle that's going around. So just stop, take a look around and know what's around you.
And he feels the love you all have for him. You're all in our hearts and prayers. We'll be thinking about you.
Appreciate that.
Good luck this afternoon, Kent. And we'll go back to Hank Goldberg.
Spectacular bid in 1979. That's where you have to go to find a favorite who justified the public's confidence in a Kentucky Derby. Actually, most of the betting choices were lukewarm, ranging from 2-1 to 9-2. In 1985, Chief's Crown went off at 6-5. Spendabuck ran off, had a 4-5 length lead early, and as you can see, he maintained it the entire way. Then there was Arazi, odds-on with unparalleled attention off his Breeders' Cup win, but he had surgery and only one prep in France leading up to the Derby, and he came up short as Louis T scored at 16-1. Remember Holy Bull? He was squeezed at the start and never recovered. Gopher Gin got the roses. Will the new millennium lift the curse of chalk from Fusaichi Pegasus? Well, his backers also have to worry about just getting him to the starting gate. Let's go to Jim.
Okay, Hank, so perhaps the place to look for the winner is not at the top of the odds board, but closer to the bottom. Such was the case in 1995. This Kentucky Derby moment is presented by Jaguar Cars, the art of performance.
They're off in against